Welcome to Fireside Giants. My name is Alex with my co-host here, Anthony Rovardo, and today we want to talk about Daniel Jones. I've seen too much Daniel Jones hate lately. I've seen too many people saying he's still, prone to turnovers and still this and still that. So far this season, he's played predominantly well. He's had that one game against the Rams where he had a couple turnovers, but are we really going to blame him coming off a serious concussion without Andrew Thomas for most of the game, without most of his weapons, Kadarius Toney playing 6 snaps and then going down? Are we really going to sit here and blame him for having a bad game against a great Rams team that took advantage of a terrible Giants offensive line with no continuity and consistency? I don't think that's fair to Daniel Jones. And some people might come out and say, which is a fair argument, some people might say Daniel Jones doesn't have that ability to carry the offense, right? He doesn't have that Russell Wilson, Tom Brady ability to carry the offense. But how many quarterbacks are really capable of doing that? You know what I mean? Like, we saw Nick Foles win a Super Bowl, guys. We saw Nick Foles win a Super Bowl. We've seen players that aren't capable of carrying teams win Super Bowls. Patrick Mahomes right now is showing he's not carrying that Kansas City Chiefs offense, whether it be because of bad offensive line play or just whatever it might be. Ranging from his playmakers not doing exactly what they should be doing, maybe more RPOs. I saw Dan Orlovsky mention that the increase in RPOs actually has a negative impact on him this season so far, which is an interesting take. But Daniel Jones, we saw him do last week what everybody was complaining about. He carried that offense, man. He ran, he threw, he caught, he did everything. The trifecta. He perfected the trifecta. He was catching one-handed catches. He was running the football. He was slinging the rock. No bad throws, no turnover-worthy plays. And he proved to me, and I know a lot of other people, that he can be the guy. And it's important that we all understand that he should and he needs to be the guy, because if he's not, I don't think you understand how much longer this rebuild is going to take. Now, Anthony, I want to get your take on Daniel Jones. I know we've both been harsh on him at times, but this year we've been pretty consistent with how his growth has looked. And I want to talk about different talking points regarding his growth and the factors that he's improved to kind of convince us that he can be the future and long-term solution at quarterback for this team. But before we dive into all that good stuff, how are you doing today, my friend?
I'm doing good. I mean, I feel like I've always been one of the more positive voices that were in support of Daniel Jones throughout his career so far. I mean, I was very impressed with him in his rookie preseason, his rookie season. I was at his first game as a starter, so instantly I was hooked. I was invested in Daniel Jones for the great experience that I had at that game. So since then, really, I've wanted to see the kid succeed, and I've really been trying to show people he's making progress. He's making improvements. I thought that he was a much better quarterback in year 2 than most people gave him credit for. I understand the statistics really didn't show it. He had 11 touchdown passes and 10 interceptions. Okay, that's a terrible ratio, and he played in 14 games. Completely understand. That ratio sucks, and he's at the same ratio right now. He's got 5 touchdowns and 4 interceptions. But if you see what the Giants offense is doing, he is putting them in positions to score. It's not really him that's not getting these touchdown passes. It's kind of the team around him. We know that at least what's 1 touchdown pass, 2 touchdown passes really from Daniel Jones have been dropped this season, and a lot of it I feel like is he's trapped in this offensive scheme that doesn't really put him in position to score touchdowns. It puts his team in position to score touchdowns. Usually they're getting down inside the 5-yard line, and then you have a Saquon Barkley or Devontae Booker punching it in from the 2-yard line, which not always they're able to do because sometimes Jason Garrett's play calling on the goal line is really bad, as we saw on Sunday. But generally speaking, Daniel Jones is making the throws and he's making the reads and he's getting the team in scoring position. Now, of course, after week 1, we lost and we were all really pissed off because of the way that we lost. And I said, Daniel Jones, I don't even know if he's it anymore. I'm questioning everything I said. He doesn't even look like he improved at all this offseason. Then week 2, he comes out slinging the ball and looks like a much improved quarterback from what he was last season. So with Daniel Jones and the progress that he's making, I am impressed. I am encouraged. And when you look ahead to this upcoming offseason and you look at this quarterback class that's filled with question marks, you got to say, Daniel Jones, man, I want you to pan out, and I really hope and pray that you do so we don't have to get stuck forcing ourselves to take a quarterback that we're not fully convinced by. So with Daniel Jones, I think you really do have to grind some film out, take a look at him, and notice he's doing things that a lot of quarterbacks can't do and won't do. And really, in my opinion, I've been saying this, Daniel Jones has been carrying the Giants offense this season. I really think he has been. I mean, you think about the game, ran for over 100 rushing yards or just about 100 rushing yards and threw for 400 yards. And another game, like the Giants offense, when they have a good game or when they win, It's because Daniel Jones is having a good performance, a turnover less performance, no turnovers. He hasn't been turning the ball over at an extreme rate. The only time he did was against the Rams. But think about that game. They didn't game plan going into that game without their left tackle, without so this game against the Panthers, they knew they didn't have Andrew Thomas. So they did a lot of rollouts to the right, and they kept a lot of the pressure off of his left side. They game planned for not having Andrew Thomas. That game plan didn't exist versus the Rams because they went into that game thinking Andrew Thomas was healthy and was going to play the full game. So that's a big difference that people have to keep in mind. The game plan really got screwed up once that one player went down for the Giants. And of course, Kadarius Toney also went down that game. The game plan was heavily involving Kadarius Toney, as we saw in the first 5 snaps of the game. So the Giants' game plan is very contingent on what players are playing. And unfortunately, a lot of the players that these game plans are revolving around have not been playing. But the one who has been playing for the majority of these games, minus after getting a concussion, is Daniel Jones. And the reason the Giants' offense has stayed afloat in any capacity has been because of Daniel Jones. In my eyes, he is carrying the Giants' offense. I don't know how long he'll be able to do that for and whether or not he'll be able to convince everybody that he is a franchise guy. But it looks like the trajectory that he's on is really positive, and I think there's a very good chance by the end of the year, Daniel Jones will convince all of us that he is a franchise guy, and we need to build around him next offseason and go into 2022 with him as our franchise quarterback.
Yeah, and like you said, he's been the one consistent factor for the most part, and I think that everything around him is changing weekly. He's had 4 or 5 different left guards. His left tackle, who's taken a big step forward, is now injured and on IR. He's going to come back minimum week 11. Like all of his players, Saquon Barkley is out, Kenny Golladay is out, Kadarius Toney's been hampered with an ankle injury for weeks. Evan Ingram has a calf injury, but he doesn't really do much anyway. Sterling Shepard has a hamstring injury. Darius Slayton has a hamstring injury. John Ross is dealing with a hamstring. The whole team, except for him, and he has a bad concussion, and he comes back the next week. The guy deserves some credit, man. Like, we need to be giving a round of applause for being the only one that has the balls to take Grady Jarrett on head on and stand up and get that 2-point conversion. We saw it against the Falcons. We were there. That guy lowered his shoulder into a 320-pound defensive tackle and shoved him off and kept running for a 2-point conversion. I don't understand, like, people, if there's anything that we can agree on, it's that Daniel Jones has heart. Man, the guy has so much heart, and I give him all the credit in the world for that. And just to give you some more statistics that really show you the kind of talent he's working with right now, with all the injuries, his receivers have dropped 14 passes this year. 14 drops this year. That's an 8.4% drop rate on his throws. So 8.4% of the time, his receivers are dropping the football. That's really, really bad. I think the Giants are top 5 in drop balls this year. So they're averaging 2 drops per game. Like, this is what we're dealing with. We're dealing with a wide receiver core that is mainly reserves and backups right now. And of course, they're going to be dropping passes. Even the starters are dropping some passes. And I think that's another big reason for maybe some red zone deficiencies or whatnot. And I think that also the play calling held back DJ at the beginning of the year too. So it's been better as of late. The red zone play calling is still atrocious in my opinion. I don't like what they're doing. Too many routes with one receiver. Play action with only one route is ridiculous to me. Nose, just halfback dives. Let him throw the ball. Use Kyle Rudolph as that big target. Use Caden Smith. Use Sterling Shepard. Use your smaller receivers there. I think when they get Kadarius Toney back, some bubble screens in the red zone will be really, really effective. I think they'll score a lot on that. I was begging for it. The Giants obviously did not do that, and we still can't score. And then to go even further, Daniel Jones only has 2.4% of turnover-worthy plays. So seven turnover-worthy plays this season. That's 2.4% of his attempts. That's a pretty solid number. I really think that I'm impressed by that. Kyler Murray's at 1.5%. I'll give you some other numbers just to give you an idea. Lamar Jackson's at 2.8%, so that's higher than Daniel Jones. Look at Joe Burrow. He's at 3.7%. Dak Prescott is at 2.3%. So Daniel Jones is hovering around the range of turnover-worthy plays and percentage around some of the best quarterbacks in the league, right? Kyler Murray is far and away taking the most efficient opportunities and taking the best selections. But he's hovering around Dak Prescott. He's hovering around Lamar Jackson, around Joey Burrow. He's doing a really good job, picking his targets, getting through his reads, and making good throws. And last week, he played a seriously clean game. That anybody that has anything bad to say about his performance last week clearly did not watch because he had no offensive line. He was rolling out to his right because he's so scared of Matt Peart. They designed this so that they could avoid Matt Peart and at that left tackle spot. But he's rolling out to his right toward Nate Solder, who's also a turnstile. So it's like, damn, like you can't get away from the pressure. So he's rolling to his right. There's guys missing blocks. There was one situation where Will Hernandez and Nate Solder missed a stunt and he got Daniel Jones got absolutely blown up in the backfield. He's running the ball. He's trying to do everything he can. He's catching one-handers. Like, again, I'm giving this guy all the credit because he deserves the credit right now for what he's done. He wants to win. And he's showing that he's carrying the offense as far as they can go. And for people that are saying, he can't carry an offense like Tom Brady, or whether it be Russell Wilson or whether it be Aaron Rodgers, when have they ever had to carry an offense? You know what I mean? They've always had Randy Moss for Tom Brady, or for Russell Wilson, you have DK Metcalf, and they're all healthy like for the majority of the time. If you're Tom Brady now, he has Mike Evans, he has Chris Godwin, he has Antonio Brown, he's one of the best offensive lines in football. If you look at Aaron Rodgers, he has Devontae Adams, he has Bakhtiari, who's injured right now, but usually he's fine. You have some really quality players, and I don't really understand, like, even good quarterbacks who have, if you put any of those quarterbacks in the Giants situation right now, I guarantee you they're not blowing other teams away. You know what I mean? Like, they're still not winning Super Bowls with an offensive line it's closely resembles an old piece of Swiss cheese. I don't understand like why people think that Daniel Jones is like the exception here, where we should be throwing him into the same basket as like all the other washed up quarterbacks like Geno Smith and stuff, when he's doing his best and he's actually showing that he's scoring 25 points against a pretty good Carolina defense. That defense is no joke. We shouldn't be sitting here saying that they're a bad defense. They scored 25 points against them, and they have Brian Burns, they have Hassan Reddick, they have some quality pieces back there. They're missing their rookie corner, but they have some quality pieces, so I wouldn't say that they're a bad unit by any means. They're the number one run-stopping defense in the league, and Devontae Booker had a 20-yard rushing touchdown, so keep that in mind too. I think that a lot of people are jumping on Daniel Jones's back, and I think it's more because of the hate for Dave Gettleman, which I totally understand. And I think it's because Dave Gettleman made that pick that we're really, really like kind of, okay, maybe he's associated with him. We don't really want him to pan out because then Dave Gettleman's going to stay. Maybe there's some subconscious connection there. But what Daniel Jones has done this year deserves some credit, and I think that people should be thinking that way.
Absolutely. And like I said, the number one thing that I'm saying with Daniel Jones, we're talking about this rookie window. We're talking about building around the young quarterback. Sure, Daniel Jones's rookie window is kind of closing rather quickly, but I don't want to reset the window with a guy like Howell or Willis or Rattler. I'm not that into this quarterback class. This is not a good quarterback class. If the Giants wanted to reset the window last year, like this past offseason with Justin Fields, with Trey Lance, with Zach Wilson, with Trevor Lawrence, with all those guys coming out, all that quarterback talent, that was the time for the Giants to go after a quarterback. Not this upcoming season. Maybe the following season, sure. Maybe next year. If you give Daniel Jones another year and he just still doesn't pan out, don't pick up the fifth-year option. Trade him, or pick up the fifth-year option and trade him on that fifth-year option to somebody else. Do that and then get your quarterback. But this upcoming quarterback class, there's so many question marks surrounding all these guys. There's not going to be a consensus number one overall pick by the time we get to April, I don't think. I don't even think – I think there's a good chance a quarterback doesn't even go number one overall in this year's upcoming draft class. So, and that's pretty much something that happens every year, right? Always a quarterback goes number one because it's the most important position, and the team that's picking number one always has no quarterback available for them to be a competitive team, so they just have to take the quarterback with the number one pick. This year, that actually might not happen. There's a good chance that Kayvon Thibodeau as a pass rusher goes number one overall, or even an offensive tackle like Evan Neal goes number one overall. These are the guys that Giants fans really want. Might not happen because they might go number one overall. Why? Because the quarterback class is not good and there's so many question marks surrounding it. So the Giants, they have at the very least, they have a decent, viable starter at quarterback right now in Daniel Jones. Play with that at least one more year. Do not force yourself to take a quarterback this year. Just play with Daniel Jones and worry about it the following season. You never know. Maybe year 4 is the year that Daniel Jones starts putting up 35 touchdown passes and looks like an MVP candidate. So just give him that one more year because there is some good potential there. Just build around him one more season. If he doesn't have that breakout year in year 4, then year 5, when he's on his 5th-year option, you can either decline his 5th-year option or you can accept it, draft a quarterback, have the two compete, and trade whichever one you don't like. That's a very viable option for the Giants going forward. I really think that year 5 for Daniel Jones is the one where you're talking about replacing him. But this 4th year, I think he deserves to be the starter. And it might not even be because he's earned it fully, but it might be because there's just not a good replacement available. Unless you're talking about trading for a guy like Aaron Rodgers or Russell Wilson. Hey, memo to all you Giants fans, we do not have any cap space. That is just never going to happen. As badly as I want to see Russell Wilson in Giants blue or Aaron Rodgers in Giants blue, it's not going to happen. We do not have the cap space. Too much of it is tied up in Kenny Galladay, Leonard Williams, and all these other expensive players. So for the Giants, I just really think next year it's the Daniel Jones show once again, for better or for worse. You never know. Maybe he pans out and it clicks finally and he's a great quarterback. If it doesn't, you go ahead to the next year's draft class. It's bound to be better than this upcoming one because this upcoming one is a down year. That's how it always goes, right? 2018, oh my God, 3 first round picks, like so many good quarterbacks coming out that year. 2019, okay, you had Kyler Murray, Daniel Jones, and Dwayne Haskins. Dwayne Haskins obviously didn't pan out. 2020, bang, you got some more quarterbacks. 2021, bang, some more quarterbacks. 2022, this is the down year once again. So it just happens every now and then, and you got to roll with the punches for the Giants. So for now, Daniel Jones, that's our guy. Build around him. Let's hope that he finishes the season really strong and just wins us all over by the end of the year. But if he doesn't, I'm still not sold on any of those quarterbacks in the class unless one of them just starts to tear it up from here on out for the rest of the college season. I really think that you just got to give Daniel Jones one more year. Give him a year where you can try to get everybody healthy. Maybe get him a new play caller if you desire to do that. If the Giants don't desire to do that, okay, that'll probably anger the crap out of me and most Giants fans. But at least give him 1 year where most of his playmakers somehow manage to stay healthy, and then see what Daniel Jones can do. Because what he's done so far with a completely depleted offensive group around him is very impressive. You take that into consideration and you say, wow, this player hasn't completely fallen apart by the seams despite not having his number 1, 2, 3, and 4 wide receivers on the field. That's impressive enough that he's actually been adequate despite missing all these players around him. So going forward for the rest of the year, hopefully Galladay, Saquon, Tony, hopefully these guys can get healthy and allow Daniel Jones to finish the season strong. And then we can go into next year, build around him, and look towards a brighter future with Daniel Jones at the helm.
Yeah, and I think Dave Gettleman's like one positive here is that he drafted DJ and that he has the potential to be great. It's just that he complemented him with one of the worst offensive lines in the league. You know what I mean? And yes, there were injuries. Nick Gates going down, definitely unfortunate. Shane Lemieux, which Anthony and I both thought never were going to be was going to be average to above average anyway. He was awful last year. I don't know why everyone thinks that he's going to be this unbelievable left guard. Chances are he was going to be bad again. But the depth, we have no depth. That's my biggest problem here is that Nate Solder was supposed to be depth. He ends up starting at right tackle. And that clearly has been a problem. Left guard, maybe it would have been Zach Fulton, but how confident were we that Zach Fulton was going to be a phenomenal player? Who knows? Maybe he would have been better than Matt Skura and Wes Martin. Matt Skura has never played left guard in his career before this. Billy Price, trading BJ Hill, who clearly we needed because we can't put any pressure on the quarterback from the interior. The past couple weeks have been better from the interior perspective, but against the Rams, it really was the Leonard Williams show. He played a really good game. But again, like the offensive line's still been a problem, and we can't absolve him just because of injuries. You know what I mean? Like the wide receiver core, they actually have a lot of talent there. The offensive line was like a big question mark before the injuries, right? We knew the wide receivers were good. We know Galladay is good. We know Tony is good. We know Sterling Shepard's good. We know these guys are really good, but what we don't know, or what we didn't know, is whether the offensive line was going to be good or not. And then the injuries hit, and it was even worse than expected. So I think he needs to be held accountable for the offensive line's fall. But Daniel Jones specifically, we saw in the Saints game that he is capable of being a good quarterback. Like Geno Smith isn't coming out here and putting up those type of numbers, isn't putting up that type of performance. Backup quarterbacks aren't coming out here and doing that, what Daniel Jones did against the Saints. We saw a starting level quarterback. We saw a phenomenal level player that can make all the throws, that can throw the ball deep on a dime, the one to John Ross. And I think that we've got to start giving credit to Daniel Jones for what he is capable of doing because he's alleviated a lot of those problems. The pocket movement has been superior to his last 2 years by far. If you've watched him, I've been posting clips every now and then of his movement in the pocket, what he's feeling pressure off his blind side. He's feeling pressure. He's stepping up. He's weaving and wobbling around guys to find openings and extend plays. And I think that's something that we haven't seen. He's protecting the football with both hands. He had a couple of fumbles against the Rams, but I give him a break for that because he's coming off a big concussion, probably in his own head a little bit. Plus, Andrew Thomas is now out of the game in the first quarter. Personally, I'm not holding it against him. And I've seen enough to be convinced that Daniel Jones took a big step forward. Maybe he didn't take the year 3 step we expected and we desired because of all the other negative factors around him. But as Anthony said, if they're healthy next year, if you have Joka, if you have Kenny Galladay, if you get another couple offensive linemen, you're in good shape. And that's the last part of this argument, Anthony, that I want to talk about. The reason that we all need Daniel Jones to pan out is because we have 2 first-round picks next year, and we cannot afford to reset the button on the quarterback position. If we hit the reset button, we're in deep shit, guys. we're going to be sitting here 3 years from now having the same conversation. We're going to be sitting here with a ton of money invested in players while your rookie quarterback is trying to develop again. And there's nobody in this draft class who I personally think can step in and be a good quarterback immediately. I know I said a couple weeks ago or a couple days ago, I like Malik Willis, but he needs a year in a scheme to be ready for the NFL. He's not a guy I want to take in and start immediately. He needs a year sitting behind somebody that, they want maybe to take over. Maybe a team like Detroit would be a good fit for him. Sit behind Jared Goff a year and then take over. That's a team that may stand out to me. Maybe the Vikings sitting behind Kirk Cousins for a year or two. Maybe that's a team that could stand out. I don't know. I'm just spitballing. But at the end of the day, when we're talking about the Giants, what Daniel Jones needs now is a right tackle and a little bit more pass rush on the defense. Or if you want to go all out on the offensive line, go with Tyler Linderbaum and Evan Neal in the first round and walk away with two amazing offensive linemen. And Daniel Jones is sitting there eating cheesecake in the back in the pocket while he's slinging the rock with his left hand. So that's what we really need. We need protection. We have the talent on offense. You still got Saquon for another year. You still got all these weapons. Now you add to your offensive line, and I know, at least I feel like they should be investing one of those first round picks on an offensive tackle. I think guards are a good round 2 and 3 target. I think offensive tackles are a premium in the first round. I think you try and get Evan Neal at right tackle first and foremost if he's available, and then you walk into the sunset and you have Andrew Thomas, you have Evan Neal, you have Nick Gates, hopefully that comes back. I mean, you still got maybe you can sign some guys at depth. You got Will Hernandez, he's in a contract year, so what happens there? Do we pay Will Hernandez? That's another conversation we'll have to have another day, Anthony. But how important do you think these draft picks are for the success of the Giants, and like really as the catalyst as to why Daniel Jones needs to be the guy?
Yeah, of course, you know me. You build through the draft. All the most successful NFL teams build through the draft. The Packers, the Chiefs, the Buccaneers. I mean, of course, the Buccaneers went out and signed Tom Brady, but they surrounded him with a beautiful team, beautiful arsenal of weapons, a great offensive line in front of him that they built through the draft. Tristan Wirfs, they drafted Mike Evans, they drafted Chris Godwin. They did sign Shaq Barrett, but they drafted a bunch of guys on that defense as well. Okay, so you build the team through the draft, and then when you see those one or two pieces that you can obtain in free agency, like a Shaq Barrett, like the once-in-a-lifetime Tom Brady, then you go out there, you put all your cards on the table, and you get that guy to just kind of push that team to the next level. That's what the Bucs did, right? That's what the Chiefs do. I mean, who do the Chiefs have from free agency that's on that team? They built through. Patrick Mahomes was obviously a draft pick. Tyreek Hill was a draft pick. Travis Kelce was a draft pick. All of their best players, draft picks. I mean, Tyrann Mathieu may be that one piece on defense that they signed, but that's exactly it, right? Look at all these best teams. They're built through the draft with one or two big pieces that they found in free agency, and that's what pushes them to the next level. And the Chiefs, I mean, I brought them up because they've been so good for the past couple of years, but right now they're not even good. So they're struggling, and we're looking at them on Monday night this upcoming week and saying, this might be a somewhat winnable game. This is a possibility as long as Daniel Jones plays some good football. So yeah, when we're talking about these upcoming 2 first-round picks, I think of the Colts always whenever I think of a team that traded down and acquired, future first-round picks, because the Colts, the year that they traded down, 2018, they went ahead and got Quentin Nelson, All-Pro, in his rookie season, and then Darius Leonard, All-Pro, in his rookie season. And that was because they traded down, they got the extra picks, and they really built their team through the draft. Now, they don't have the quarterback that they need. They probably need to go out and sign one or trade for one or something. Carson Wentz isn't cutting it out for them. He's often injured. He's turnover prone, but the Colts team as a whole, if you go ahead and you look at that team, the weapons around them are decent. They're getting there. The offensive line is great pieces on defense. They're just one or two of those free agent signings away from being that squad in the AFC. The Giants need to start building through the draft. Take these 2 first-round picks, maybe even trade down with one of them again. Do it again. Get even more young players. Get another future first-round pick, because you still got to set yourself up for next season just in case Daniel Jones doesn't pan out this upcoming year. Maybe you can get a quarterback the following season. So for the Giants, these first-round picks are so important. They're the most important picks that the Giants are going to be making for a while, because this could be the time that really resets the clock for the Giants, or that allows them to just build on top of this foundation for Daniel Jones and allow them to build around them. There's a lot of cracks in this foundation right now. Let's see if we can squeeze some concrete into those cracks and fix this through the 2 first-round picks in this year's draft. Whether they're going to pick with both of those 2 picks, whether they're going to trade down from one of them, Don't know. That's so far down the road. We don't even know what picks we're going to have at this point, but those picks are going to be important because they're going to have to make a decision with them. Are they going to use those picks to find themselves a new quarterback? Or are they going to use those picks to build around the quarterback that they have? And that's ultimately going to determine where the Giants are headed for the next 3 to 5 years. So it's a very important draft coming up. These 2 first-round picks, it was a great job by the Giants trading down in the 2021 draft to get a future first-round pick, because when you have 2, you can really get flexible in your draft strategy. So this is going to be huge for the Giants. This is a huge season. See how this plays out, see where they end, what their final record is, and then see what they do in the offseason with those draft picks, because they are going to really be detrimental or really positive, right? It's going to determine the future of where this team is heading.
Absolutely, guys. So that's kind of our take on Daniel Jones, the draft picks, the future, what happens now. And personally, I think that the Giants can't afford to let Dave Gettleman, continue to build this offensive line. They need to fire Dave Gettleman or let him retire at the end of the season. Bring in a GM who's going to help them build the offensive line, or at least somebody, because I just can't trust him anymore. Whether Andrew Thomas pans out or not, and he looks like he's going to, I still just, it's not a coincidence to me that Joe Judge comes in here. Dave Gettleman, for the first time in his career as a general manager, spends a first-round pick on an offensive lineman. The second that Joe Judge comes in here, that's the first time Dave Gettleman has ever spent a first-round pick on an offensive lineman. I'm going to say it 100 times. First time he's ever spent a first-round pick on an offensive lineman, let alone the 4th overall pick. And it's the second that Joe Judge comes here. So I think a kind of shift happened here. Something happened in his I don't know, his strategy, his ideology of drafting linemen. There was a shift there, and ultimately, who else has panned out? Nate Solder signing was a dud. Will Hernandez finally looks good as a right guard in his final year on his rookie deal. Nick Gates looked good, but he's injured right now, and they've been moving him around like he's on a Ferris wheel. So I don't really understand that. Just freaking keep him at the same spot already. It's ridiculous. He's a good center. Stop moving him around. Left guard, still a major question mark. They should have never let Kevin Seitler go. They should have extended him, if anything, which I was calling for, and they obviously didn't do that. Now we have a huge mess at left guard, and he's doing well with the Baltimore Ravens. And we overspent on Kyle Rudolph and Ofadio Denabo and guys who haven't even contributed really this year. So, there's a lot that Dave Gettleman did very wrong, and most of it's on the offensive line, and he needs to be held accountable for that specifically, especially because he promised us, literally in quotations, promised us he would solve this thing once and for all. But guys, let us know what you think about Daniel Jones. I know a lot of people have definitely some alternative opinions about him, and that's fair, justifiable. I respect your opinions. I'm not here to tell you that you're wrong, and that we're absolutely right. Sports is ongoing and things change on the weekly, so we'll see what happens. Hopefully DJ can be the guy, and we can use those first round picks on offensive linemen and pass rushers and whatever might help this team. But make sure to take advantage of the $250 free from BUSR, our sponsor. Go hit up the link in the description. They're giving away $250. All you have to do is sign up. And if you deposit a minimum of $100, they're literally going to match it for free. If you bet $100, they're going to give you $100 for free to bet. So they're pretty much giving money to you guys for free. Go enjoy that. And I use it every day. So definitely a product that I am also enjoying as well. But make sure to subscribe below on Apple, Spotify, and YouTube as always, my friends, and have a fantastic rest of your week.